Welcome to Life Workshop, where we discuss the forgotten basics. The topic of this episode is or should life be a competition? Again, as it has been for the recent episodes, your most favorite co-host,
Yes.
Let me get this right.
Most favorite co-host. Here we are. Good to be
most
back.
favorite co-host is Doug. And then, of course, the most favorite host is Mo.
Give it time.
He will be the mostest favorite host.
Previously best most favorite co-host.
So back to the topic again. So because often we hear this, that life is a competition. But I would say, is it that way and should it be that way? And to be honest, the concept of competition, it has been a big dilemma for myself for the longest time, that, at what point is it good or bad? Normally, as I have said in the past too, there is good in any bad in any good. That will never change. But the big picture, how that decision is made, at what point do we need to compete, and it is a good thing, and at what point becomes a negative thing. I'm sure you have heard this by Doug before, this expression that, do you want to be a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond?
Mm-hmm.
Which one would you prefer to be?
Well, I think it's probably the big fish in the small pond.
Mm-hmm.
It obviously depends a little bit on the situation and the people, but in general, I'd go with big fish, small pond.
So it shows a little bit of a competitiveness in nature that,
And it makes you feel important, makes you feel like you have an impact, you have influence, and kind of you can be the man, you can be the guy.
Doug, you are a very important person.
Right?
Whatever I can do to boost your ego.
I wish everybody would notice this.
But this is the interesting part because, myself, for example, years ago, I had this conversation that somebody brought this up. Go ahead.
Hold on. What's your answer to that same question?
Oh, that's a good question. To be honest, for me, I think I would go for the second one. And the reason is
Which is the second one?
A small fish in a big pond.
Thank you.
Because I like to improve and get bigger and become a big fish in a big pond.
Well, that wasn't the question.
No, myself, I have been brought up in a just with competition and being competitive, these things. But again, I said some of it. But as the time goes on, I'm trying to understand that am I is this good or not? Now I'm going to ask you another question because this is something that I believe the psychologists they have done. They have gone and asked this question, so I'm going to ask you this question. What if I would tell you, Doug, and this is for the audience too, by the way,
So I'm just the guinea pig. This is great.
Correct.
Okay, sure.
Correct. A very important guinea pig, though. Let's not forget that. So the question is this. If I would say you can make, this is about money, $50,000 a year, but everyone else makes $25,000 a year. Or the second option is you can make $100,000 a year, but everyone else makes $200,000 a year. Which option would you go for? So in the first option, you make less money, but you're on top of the thing. But in the second option, you're making more money, but you're the poor bastard.
Purely based on money?
Correct.
I'd go for making 100 and everybody around makes 200.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is good. Okay. So, of course, that's a very good point because, we compete for different things, not necessarily every time is about money. Mm-hmm. But I'm assuming if it was some other aspect, you might be choosing the other one.
Right. Yeah.
So, and this is a very good question. So this question is for everybody and I would like to know, but I should tell you that statistically they say the answer is 75% of people, they would choose the option one, to make less money, but to be richer than the rest of people.
Oh, wow.
Correct. That was the stat that, I heard, that they had done this. And the reason, and if you give it good thoughts, you might change your mind though. Let's say, because you want to be, this really should sit and think about that in a very detailed way, because now your house is going to be bigger, your car is going to be nicer, I don't know, you can wear fancy
Well, I mean,
clothing, you can show off more.
I mean, there's a lot to this question, but for me, just at the end of the day, is probably something that I live by and that I believe is that you become somebody that you spend a lot of your time with, like the average of 4 or 5 people.
Correct.
If you spend enough time with them, you learn their traits, you learn kind of how they operate, how they work, and you become like that. So if you're in a situation where there's people who's better than you, whether it's be financial or life or work, you'll eventually just become as good as them. So that's kind of the basis of my decision.
Then you will be making 25,000. You will lose that $50,000 income. You're thinking your 100 would become 200.
100 will
Of
become
course,
200.
now you twisted it.
And they'll become 400. So it's fine.
But now I want to tell you this story. As I said, personally, when I was brought up in a family that the competition was very important. Especially, believe it or not, it was from my mom's side. My dad told us that we are just great for no good reason. We are just great.
Everybody wins.
But my mom, on the other hand, every time was comparing us with somebody else. And every time would try to say that somebody else is better than you, so I have to get better to beat them. So I became a little bit competitive, but that behavior stayed with me. And obviously, sometimes these things get ingrained in you, and it's not as easy to change. So once when I was in, a few years after I was in Canada, that I had started my own practice, my physiotherapy practice. Once I had gone to Toronto, and I was meeting 2 friends of mine, over there. And then we were supposed to meet, I think, like at 5 o'clock or something. I got to this restaurant that we were supposed to meet like half hour earlier. So I started sitting and thinking, I ordered a tea, which is a very common thing. This was an Iranian restaurant, and then ordering a tea, just enjoying myself. But at the same time, in my own thoughts, I was thinking, what can I do? I have started my own practice, the thing that I was dreaming, about. And now what would I do that, if I do this over a few years, then I can have $1 million. Then in my own head, I started, doing the calculation and businesses that I could do. I can buy this, I can do that. And then it becomes 2 million after so many years. Then it becomes 4 and then 8. And then in my own thoughts, I went up to 20 million. And it was
just by having a cup of tea.
Oh, yeah. Hey, that was Iranian tea, the things it does
really,
to you.
Really good tea. Okay.
You should try Iranian tea. You become rich in your head. But the idea was that, in my own head, I started, to do this. And it was all a matter of competition. And in my own head, this is the funny thing. Okay, don't laugh at me. Not in my face. Behind my back is okay. That is rude. But in my own head, I was thinking, for example, if I would have for example, somebody would call, because it was all a matter of show off and competition. For example, somebody would call, say, let's buy that building. Oh, we can get rid of the other one, then we will buy this, warehouse or something. That's making sure that everybody would hear me to realize how important I am. Okay, stop that now.
Well, it's where you have your out loud conversation with yourself so people around you can hear what you're thinking.
But that would be a bit funny. But that damn tea, it wasn't me. But believe it or not, that was a turning point, because I realized, okay, I became $20 million rich in my own head. But then what? How far would I go? Who would I compete with? Because there are people that they have more than that. And then you become a multi-millionaire, a multi-billionaire. Again, there are people who are going to beat you. And then I realized there is no end to this. And in all honesty, it was a turning point for myself, because at that point, till then, I was a bit competitive, and I wanted to, because I had started my own practice, I wanted to beat other guys that they have their own practice, to show them who's the man, as you said earlier. And, I can do this. And then, but when I thought about this, I realized I don't need to do that. In order to be happy in life, I'm doing all these things to have a good life. I need to take care of other aspects of my life.
Right.
I have said it before too. A chain is as strong as its weakest link. And my weakest link is not anymore money. There are other things. So, because at that point, I have a decent income, I'm okay with that. Why should I kill myself? over that. And I'm not going to be just, and it doesn't mean that stopped working or to do less. That's not what it means. The idea changed. My views changed. That
Right.
they kept working, but my intention was not necessarily to become richer. Go ahead. You want to say something?
So, I mean, to then answer the question of this whole topic for today, I mean, is or should life be a competition? For you, to that point, everything always was a competition. Doesn't matter on...
I wouldn't say everything. I would pick my battle. For example, some of the things that was very important to me, one was my profession. And I wanted to be one of the best. And it happened that I became. But but no, seriously, I wanted to really, my profession was one. And the level of income, that, I wanted to be, because I'm coming from a poorer family. Every time it was important to me that to be richer and, that I never have to worry about money. But then it never ended there. I wanted now to become even richer than the richer,
Right.
I just wanted to do that. So one reason I don't have 20 million is because of that tea. Just to let you know, otherwise I could have been. But honestly, that moment, it was a turning point though, because I started thinking, no, there are other things that are important in my life, and you were, you know this very well. I know Doug for a long time. That then I started, thinking differently. No, I want to have this much money. I have it. I'm good. Then my physical health, was important. Then I took my sport and my
Right.
food a bit more seriously.
So, I mean, that really is it. We've been talking a lot just about money or the financial aspects of things in terms of competition. But what about the couple of things you just mentioned? Your health, your activity or your fitness, your social group, your social environment. What about
Actually,
all of those?
This is the funny thing. I started, for example, running. Then I became very competitive in running. I wanted... I couldn't do it, okay. but and as a matter of fact, because of that, I ended up with some injuries because I was pushing it too hard. That was a very good point.
Because you cannot let anything go, or used to. Like
That is true.
5, 6, 7 years ago, you could not let anything go.
Actually, you know what? That's very true. So that behavior changed because I never had another tea to think about my running. That was the problem. I had tea to think about my money. I got that right, but then I didn't have the second tea. The Iranian
should go
tea,
for tea again. I
the
think.
Persian tea. Persian tea does magic. Try one. But so the moral of the story is this: that it is not. Is it a nature? And sometimes because or nurtured, when it is said. And a friend of mine said that potentially it is in our nature, and because, for example, at one point the resources were limited, so we were born to be more competitive in order to survive.
Okay.
Which I would say, it could be right. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know the history behind this, but it could be that these resources were limited. So because of that, we had to compete to survive.
Yeah.
But the point is that a lot of time, if we switch our set of thought, do we really have to compete? Or maybe we could think differently and work together to make sure that the sources are not limited. For example, the concept of oil and gas that normally has been it was a big deal for the West to go and, for example, take advantage of the countries that they had and to cause wars in the Middle East, cause those problems. It has been all grown out of this simple set of thought.
Right.
Because they are not people from the moon or some another planet coming here to do this. They are just us. Some of us we become the politicians. Some of us become more influential. And if we have the wrong value system, we get to execute them. And as a matter of fact, as people, we support them too because we have the same value system. Our value system is, I want to be richer at any cost. I want to be competitive. So what they do that for you. You didn't ask to be happy, and they're not performing that for you. You asked to be rich. So what they do in order to be richer, then they say, okay, I can get the oil for cheaper price if I do this. And what is the cost there?
Not important. Doesn't matter.
Fool those countries or take advantage of them, and not really with the intention to go and help them, but the intention to cheat them. And normally say that when that is the intention, it doesn't end there. When somebody is in that type, that's the behavior, first you do it to your own people, then you do it to others. So they do it in another country, but then when it comes to inside the country, again, the same behavior applies. Again, they do it to each other, to the same people that they elected you. Again, they will do the exact same thing that you want to step. It becomes that concept of dog eat dog that we talked in the previous episode.
Yeah, it's pretty much saying the same tone to the previous episode where, it's really just about doing whatever you can to benefit yourself.
That's correct, to win.
That's it.
Now that winning and this competing is at the cost of you losing. Now, and there are two ways of winning. I can win, for example, you in two different ways, or I can get better than you, or if I cannot, if I can make sure that you fail,
right,
that you
even
be lower than me, get worse.
Even if you fail and I win, I still win. If you almost win and I win, I lost because you didn't fail.
Yeah.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I don't know, I watch soccer and, I really like it. And have you seen sometimes, some of the games that, for example, somebody brings the ball to the front and the last moment kicks it for another teammate and the other guy scores the goal.
Yes.
And takes all the credit. Although you didn't do anything specific.
Yes.
You don't give the credit to the one who set it up for you.
Correct. Who did all the work, yeah.
So these are the competition that I want to be better at any cost. Mm-hmm. Versus if, for example, if they had the attitude of, I don't know, the attitude was right, that would be different. I should tell you this. In Iran, wrestling, it was very common. And we had one of the guys that his name was Takhti. I know you have a hard time saying that. But anyway, he was one of the Takhti. He was a champion. And then I believe in one of the wrestling matches that he had against Russian, which Russians are again very strong
very
in. At this wrestling. In one of the competition, as they were doing that, I think the other guy's shoulder got injured, one of the shoulders. So Takhti was known to be a very good guy generally, not just in wrestling, but as a person. So when he noticed the other guy got injured in the shoulder, he did not go for that shoulder. He did not, because he knew that, that is his weakest spot. He didn't do that. And then the match continued. When the other guy realized that he's not going for the other shoulder, he stopped in the middle of the race. To be honest, to the best of my knowledge, this is what happened. He stopped. He raised Takhti's hand. He said that he's the winner.
Oh, wow.
Because of that.
That's,
yeah.
I know, the opposite of dog eat dog. I mean,
exactly. That is the sense of championship, that even he recognized you're not coming for my weakest spot, and you're the good guy, and now I'm going to give you the credit.
Right.
And that was the behavior that really, I would say it's very good to think. And I should say this again, the concept of this competition when we are talking about, now, is it again nature or nurture? I think a lot of it is a set of thought. Normally, I have said that, with you, that, I said, the way you think dictates the way you feel.
Yep.
The value system that we have accentuates or weakens some of the behaviors that we have. For example, personally, I did martial arts, but I did not do martial arts for the sake of the art part of it. I did it for the street fighting part of it. And the reason that I did that, it was not that because I like to go and fight in the street. That was not my intention. But it was because I was in a society that bullying was very common, and it was a self-defense mechanism. I had no choice. But so because of the circumstances and because of the value system that was in the society at that time, it promoted a behavior in me to be a fighter, which is not necessarily a good thing, by the way, I should say that, not in this sense. It promoted that, although I think a very peaceful and cool guy. But I didn't like to be bullied in any shape or format. So that was the thing that drove me. Where am I going with these things? The circumstances and the things that the way we think, we make something to get worse. To strengthen a behavior. So the concept of competition, I don't think we need it as much as we think. It doesn't have to be a dog eat dog.
No.
We can all benefit. We can all become stronger if we switch our thoughts. if instead of going after oil, we would think, okay, if there are oil resources are limited, what can we do that is not limited? Then maybe we would come up with concept of solar system and solar panel a bit sooner than this.
Yep.
Anyway, I would like to make this, if you don't mind, this episode a bit shorter. We'll come back to this in another episode. But I'm going to end up with this question for everybody. That again, if you had that option of which option would you go for? Would you like to make $50,000 a year, but everybody else $25,000, or the other way around? That if you would make 100,000, so you would make more money, but everyone else would make 200,000. Give it a good thought, because that would show the concept of competition, at least in the money part. We will come back to discuss the same in a different episode. But in the meantime, remember, life is simple. We make it complicated. Take care.